Gino, you know what the big problem is?
I know what, I just told you what the problem is. Are you deaf?
Your addiction to pornography.
I don't know about you, but that is not how I expected that sentence to end. But suddenly it all makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, his lack of desire, the extreme stuff needed to float his boat, plus he has just the face of a man you'd think would be addicted to that. So is it true? Or is Jasmine just out to humiliate her husband? To hurt him the way that he's hurt her?
Shut the up. Gino has a lot of deep sexual issues, but I will humiliate and hurt him deeply if I tell them the truth.
Jasmine's been sitting on this for a very long time. She's been waiting for the right moment to reveal this in order to inflict maximum damage. But before we get into that, let's just rewind to the start. So the last we saw the pair, Jasmine felt like Gino was trying to financially control her. He holds all the cards, she said. He controls the financial purse strings. I'm stuck in Michigan, I can't drive, I can't work, and I need his approval. I have to go to him for every single purchase I make. And she made it very clear she wasn't happy with this arrangement. So when we join them today, it's Gino's family reunion, and Gino's desperately hoping that Jasmine's gonna behave herself.
This family reunion is really important to me. All my family's gonna be there. You know, I don't want to walk in the family reunion and have them see that we have tension between us.
So as they pick up the food to take to the reunion, Gino decides that he doesn't want to fix what happened between the pair of them. He'd rather sweep it under the rug. He instead wants to pretend like everything's okay in front of his family. But considering Jasmine's been ignoring him, I don't think she's got the acting skills capable of pretending everything's fine. She wants to tackle the issue head on. She wants to get into it right now. And more than anything, she wants an apology.
These shoes are a week old. You got your smoothie all over my brand new shoes. That's unacceptable behavior.
I didn't throw it at you. I threw it on the floor because I didn't want it and you happened to be there.
So Jasmine clearly wants to play this using the logic of a 12-year-old boy. I mean, that's hardly the way to win the argument, is it? Now, for his part, Gino responds by saying to her, that's not how a woman acts. And again, conveniently, they're both skirting around the issue. They're not actually addressing why they fought in the first place. Now, Jasmine goes on to say that she feels like a doll. She feels like a pretty little plaything. Someone who's there to do and please Gino, do exactly what he says. But Gino's not having this, and he once again tells her she needs to show him more appreciation.
If there is someone that is ungrateful in this relationship, it's him, because he doesn't appreciate the day-to-day things that I do for him. Cleaning the house, me cooking for him.
Now, Jasmine says that Gino expects this of her. He expects her to cook and clean because she's his wife. And given the state of his house when she first arrived, given the fact that the guy subsisted on microwave meals and couldn't even flush his own toilet, I think it's safe to assume that she is telling the truth here. So if he shows me no appreciation for everything that I do, she says, then why should he expect me to show him appreciation for what he should be doing, what his role should be as the man of the house?
From now on, I'm not gonna play the happy wife if I don't feel happy, if he's not making me happy. God.
This conversation has clearly angered Jasmine again. She's back in a mood. When the food arrives, she hilariously just flat out refuses to help him.
I need you to help me. Can you help me?
No.
But after struggling and managing it himself, they eventually arrive at the family reunion. And at first, Jasmine puts on a happy face. She even laughs at the music being performed, because these performances are now apparently a tradition in Gino's family reunions. And it's not hard to see why she's laughing.
I'm not an expert, but that's not Italian music playing.
Yeah, I wouldn't quit your day job just yet, ladies. Now, as Jasmine goes on to meet the extended family members that she hasn't yet met, she does appear to be making an effort. She is trying to make a good first impression. She's pretending to be happy. She's pretending that everything's fine. But that's when they all sit down for dinner. Before too long, Jasmine gets asked about her birthday. How was it? What did she get up to? And she brings up the topic of the beauty pageant. And it's very clear she's really struggling to hold it together.
But Gino told me that I cannot do it, and that is very cruel.
I didn't say you can't do it. I said I have to try to find a way to get the money because we have a lot of other financial things going on.
Now, given the way that Gino's acting, given the fact that he's acting like this beauty pageant cost is about to financially ruin them, the logical next question his family ask, a question that we've all been wondering, is what's the cost? How much does it cost to take part in a beauty pageant? And Gino clarifies that it's $1,200. That, I understand, might be a lot of money to many people, but Gino's own family tell him it's not that much. They all seem to be under the impression that that is more than doable for him.
That's not too bad, Gino.
Well, I don't agree with that.
And hearing that Gino's family are on her side, Jasmine latches onto the opportunity to further open up about her and Gino's problems. Only that just makes Gino more defensive, more irritable.
I'm going all out, busting my butt for her. I'm trying to make her happy and support her ever since she's been here. It's not fair to me to be the bad guy, and I'm not.
Busting your butt? Really, Gino? Because we've been told that all you do is sit around playing fantasy football. I think it's very telling that Gino's clearly worried about coming across as the bad guy here. Like, perhaps that's why he didn't want Jasmine to even talk to his family, because he knows his actions aren't exactly going to come across too well.
She hasn't really been doing anything here. She hasn't been going out.
I just took her to the movies. I take her to the gym every day. That's a lot.
It's not
It's a lot. It is a lot to take someone back and forth.
Gino's own family can see how stifled Jasmine has been. She can't do anything without Gino, and that's what she's been trying to make him understand. But he's purposefully acting blind to it. Like, driving her to the gym every day. Seriously, is that what he meant when he said he'd been busting his butt for her earlier? Because if that's the case, then he really does need a reality check.
You knew that she went and worked out every day. Taking her to the gym is not that big of a deal.
It's a big deal for me because it's a lot of driving back and forth.
But you're not working.
Michelle and Dana both tell Gino that seeing as he's not working, it's pretty much his duty, his job, to look after her like that. After all, they remind him, isn't that the reason you said you left your job in the first place? I think it says a lot that Gino's own family are siding with Jasmine here, especially considering they didn't really even like her before they got married.
I get frustrated with Gino because he says he wanted to spend time with Jasmine. He wanted to stay home from work, but really Gino wants to do fantasy football and do what Gino wants to do.
Isn't it interesting that on that topic, when we're talking about Gino's stubbornness, Gino's own family all agree with Jasmine? Maybe she hasn't been as dramatic as we first thought. Maybe she hasn't been exaggerating the extent of Gino's fantasy football obsession.
I don't waste my time. I read about stuff that's important.
You left your job to be playing fantasy football. Fantasy football has ruined you.
Yeah, that's a grim picture that they're painting, isn't it? This picture of unemployed Gino sitting around with his cheesy toes playing fantasy football while Jasmine cooks and cleans for him. But for as grim as that may be, somehow it's not as grim as what Gino does next. For some unfathomable reason, he thinks it's okay to, in front of his family, bring up the topic of sex.
That's wearing me out to the point where I have a hard time being intimate with you because all the hurtful things you say to me. Very hurtful.
I didn't bring any intimacy topic, but you're venting it out to your family.
So only a few hours ago, Gino was desperate to keep their dirty laundry hidden. But now he's done a complete U-turn. He has decided to expose everything. He's laying it all out on the table. He's sharing how their fighting has affected their sex life, which I think you'll agree is an incredibly awkward thing to be talking about at a family reunion. Like, Cousin Dana's face says it all. No one needs to hear this, Gino, especially not your flesh and blood. Now, the humiliation of this all causes Jasmine to tear up. But if there's one thing we know about Jasmine by now, when she's attacked, she will always fight back.
Gino has a lot of deep sexual issues, but I will humiliate and hurt him deeply if I tell them the truth.
Jasmine's sitting on a scary secret, isn't she? Like, just from the way that she's talking, I feel like she knows something about Gino that no one else does. At least, that no one else does yet. As the lunch wraps up, Gino's family try to give some final parting words of advice.
You just need to let all this crap go.
You can learn to either resolve it, cope with the situation, or end it.
Which is sound advice. Either learn to let it go, learn to forgive and move on, or move on. And with those words ringing in both of their ears, when we join them later on that evening back at home, it's not long before they decide to revisit the disastrous events of this afternoon.
I don't think we should broadcast our problems to the entire family.
Now your family can see who you really are.
You're absolutely wrong.
Jasmine tells Gino that he's the one that decided to broadcast their sex life to his whole family. And he responds by saying he's glad that he did so. Like, what a strange response. Why on earth would he be glad? Does he somehow think that he's managed to make Jasmine appear to be the bad guy? Does he revel in the idea of humiliating her in public like that? Because if that's his logic, if that's what he's hoping to achieve, he's just opened up a massive can of worms. Jasmine now wants to talk about their sex life, and something tells me she's out for revenge.
He always makes me yell at him so that he has an excuse to avoid having sex with me because he doesn't enjoy intimacy with me. He prefers other things.
Look, from the very beginning, since we first met these two in their very first episode, it was very clear that there was some issues in the bedroom, right? First, there was the massive bag of blue pills. Then there was the complete opposite, the total loss of libido. And then he tried to rationalise and explain that by saying that he lost his libido, he lost his sex drive every time she yelled at him, right? But since then, it's taken more and more wild and extreme stuff to try and get him in the mood. Like, we've seen Jasmine literally go under the knife to tighten herself up. We've seen her talk about butt play. She's been open and honest about his love of golden showers. There was all of the domination stuff and handcuffs and gag balls and whatever else. And then, of course, the foot fetish stuff. Like, each to their own, but for my tastes, there's some very weird stuff going on here. Quite extreme stuff going on here. They're clearly both into some weird and kinky shit. And Jasmine has a theory as to what's going on.
Do you know what the big problem is?
I know what, I just told you what the problem is. Are you deaf?
Your addiction to pornography.
Is it me, or does Gino seem more riled up than usual? Like, there's two possible things going on here. Maybe Jasmine's gaslighting him and trying to make him look like he's the crazy one. Maybe she's out to humiliate him after what he did to her at lunch. Or maybe it's because Jasmine's actually onto something. Maybe Gino's panicking that the truth is coming out.
I'm not addicted to porn. Have I watched porn before? Yes, but I'm not addicted to it. She thinks I'm addicted to porn because I'm not being intimate with her.
Now, Gino's response is to say that Jasmine's made this whole porn thing up in order to shift the blame away from herself. If she can conveniently pin all of our problems down to my so-called addiction, he says, then that gives her the ability to excuse herself, excuse her role in how her actions affect their sex life. It's a compelling argument. I think he may have a point. But it is very interesting to see how the normally fiery, out of control Jasmine right now is perfectly in control. It's Gino who's unraveling.
Now I understand.
You don't understand anything. You don't listen to me. That's your problem.
I do.
No, you don't. You don't listen.
I do, and you don't have
No,
to.
you don't.
You don't have to curse. No one is yelling.
I don't know, there's just something about Jasmine here. The way she's so calm and in control that makes me feel like she's talking with her chest. She's talking with her head held high. She's talking with confidence, the way that someone talks when they know that they're right. This revelation now has Gino desperately trying to save his image, and whether he's guilty or not, Jasmine isn't backing down. She's running with this story.
In the past, when I expressed to him that I want to be intimate, he said like, oh, I couldn't wait for you, and I masturbated. It is so hard for me to understand.
Wait, is that it? Is that the only evidence she's gonna put forward? Like, don't get me wrong, she may well still have a point. Like I said before, we all know that Gino's into some really, really wild stuff in the bedroom, but I don't know if that proves anything. Like, the only thing that does prove is he prefers his own hand to her. And I can definitely see why that would hurt her ego, but I don't know if that proves he has a porn addiction. The evidence feels a bit light. It feels like what she's brought to the table isn't really definitive enough to humiliate him like this on TV.
Now I get it. Why you never marry someone from your culture? Because no American is gonna keep up with this.
Look, the truth is, whether or not Jasmine is telling the truth, there are some huge issues in their relationship at the moment, and a lot of those seem to relate back to control. There's no getting away from the fact that, irrespective of his internet viewing habits, Gino's behaviour is demonstrating a lot of red flags. Even his own family are calling him out on it. So with that in mind, I just don't see how this new strategy they've both adopted, this attempt to both try and humiliate one another, is possibly going to help things. Surely this will only make things worse.